Mike Martz is talking. Why is Mike Martz talking? Hey, hold up. Like the video if you ain't liked it. Because I got to turn the hat around for this. Because when I start getting emotional, when I start having real conversation, I start moving the hands a lot, and then I knock my hat. So hat's backwards on this. Mike Martz, talking to you, Mikey. Mike Martz said the Chicago Bears will have an offense that is as bad as the 0-16 Lions. Now, here's the thing. Where was Mike Martz the last 4 years? When the Bears had an offense that's one of the worst offenses in NFL history. Where was Mike Martz talking then, right? When you could see tangibly, that this offense was putrid. Where was Mike Martz's commentary then? Oh, even on top of that, where was Mike Martz when his offense that he was running with the Chicago Bears, when he had offensive weapons that should have been able to play better, that are some of the best players in Chicago Bears history, when he had an offensive line? Where is that? Where's that tangible evidence that that offensive line was good? You've been living off of the Rams name for what, 40 years now, and you're still trying to have this conversation like you were this miracle mind, an offensive genius in the NFL, when in actuality, most of your NFL career is made off of a name that you had in a couple of seasons. And when you look at the vast majority of it, you weren't very good. It's always the dudes that have usually the least amount of talent that do the most amount of yapping. So here's my thing for Mike Martz. Mike Martz, Mr. Run the ball or pass the ball on the 1 yard line. And then Jay Cutler says F Mike Martz and gives the ball to arguably one of the best running backs in the NFL, who runs it in immediately for a touchdown. Mr. Mike Martz, who said, wow, I can't have this pass catching tight end in my system because that's not going to work for what I want to do because my system works. It doesn't work. And you know what? You traded away Greg Olsen, who ended up being a pretty good tight end in the NFL, and we really couldn't find one. By the way, all the blocking tight ends that you went out there to get sucked at blocking. So the position that you traded the good guy for, you couldn't even figure that one out. So Mike Martz wants to run his mouth and say this offense is going to be the same as the 0-16 Lions. My guy, you could have been coaching the 0-16 Lions with how your offenses have run. What are we talking about? What are we talking about right now? Mike Martz. I'll tell you, this is the thing, right? This is the thing. Affiliation with NFL doesn't mean great NFL mind. Affiliation with the NFL does not mean great NFL mind. We need to figure that out. We need to figure that out. Because there's people that get on these shows and they talk and they say, I did this in the NFL and I've done that in the NFL and I've done this in the NFL. And then you ask them, you're like, so why aren't you in the NFL anymore? Now, Mike Martz, I get, right? A little bit older, aged by, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, basically, your offensive system, the second they figured it out, you had no answer on how to put another offensive system out there. I'm not saying that you're that you're a football dummy like a lot of these national nerds out here, but my guy, you haven't seen the Bears offense yet. It's preseason. If you had any common sense up there, you would realize that just like y'all used to do, you're running a vanilla offense in the preseason. We've seen, and here's the thing, I would almost be on board with it if what we saw from the Chicago Bears offense has been terrible. But we've seen an offense that's actually moved the ball down the field. We've seen an offense that has had so many of these national nerds that have gone on their platforms and said the Bears offense is going to be terrible, that it literally was moving the ball down those team throats to the point where the national nerds that were on there were sitting there like, oh, the Bears are, they're really showing a little bit of something. And I'm looking at you, what's the Detroit quarterback that ran out of bounds? It doesn't matter. Dan Orlovsky. They're showing me a little bit of something here, but I still got a lot of faith in these Seahawks. I get that the Chicago Bears are an easy target. I get that it's easy to say that this offense is going to be the same offense as last season. I get all of that. That's the easy narrative. But that's also the lazy narrative. Because that's not what they've shown you. I don't know, dog. I got nothing. Anytime the Bears do anything remotely in the right direction, it's just like the national nerds or guys like Martz just come out and they're just like, oh, well, let me tell you something. I would bet any amount of money Mike Martz hasn't watched a preseason game. And see, if Mike Martz was on here, if he was on this platform, which, Mike, you're always welcome to come. If he was on this platform, I'd ask Mike, who's on the team? Mike, who's on the offensive line? Mike, what do you think of these moves to bring these guys in? Because this is the part that when they're on these platforms, they don't tell you. They're not watching. Why would Mike Martz turn on his TV to watch the Chicago Bears? Because he coached here? He didn't win here. I'll bet you Mike Martz was celebrating just as hard as anybody when the Rams won the Super Bowl this year, because that's where he won. So this is all that I have to say to the rest of you national nerds out there that want to pile on my Chicago Bears. I'll see you in the season. I'll see you during the season. Because if you listened to what Coach Flus was saying and you watched how the Bears were running their offense and you saw what the Bears were doing while running that same offense, even as vanilla as they're probably running it, you would realize that it doesn't matter if Justin Fields has 5 wide receiver targets. You would realize that it doesn't matter if these guys are able to create separation, because the Bears are running a run-heavy style offense, like the coach said 6 months ago. You see, if you're listening, you hear those things. When you're not listening, you just talk. Hey, man, appreciate you guys for tuning in and rocking with us. As always, man, it's your boy, Pat the Designer, back at it again. Appreciate you guys for rocking with the show. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page if you haven't done so already. I don't think we got anything else coming out today. Make sure you guys check out the podcast side as well. We'll have the podcast up for this episode in, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, something like that. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, all that good stuff. And is there anything else? Oh, Bear Dons in the chat. Let me get some more Bear Dons in the chat, man. Drop them Bear Dons in the chat. Because as always, man, hey, guess what? Most of us were Bears fans while Mike Martz was messing up play calls here, and we'll be Bears fans long after. Appreciate y'all for showing so much love, man. It's your boy, Pat the Designer, back at it again to continue watching our Chicago Bears content. Click the links on the screen or check the links in the description below.